Granger Smith, thank you so much for being here with us. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Trey. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's such a busy time of the year. I can't believe that we're already at the end of 2022. Christmas is right around the corner. But you also have a movie that's out now on PureFlix, Moonrise. Tell us a little bit about how that opportunity came about.
Yeah, it's crazy because you say it in the terms of this year, and this whole year now has been me and Moonrise, this movie, because we started filming just a few weeks into January of this year, and here we are. It's just releasing, and we're a few weeks to the end of 2022. So this whole year has been really wrapped up in it, and I found out about it last Thanksgiving. I was sent the script and I'm not really pursuing acting, or that's not something that's normal to me. So getting a script is different, and so I ended up reading it. I had my little boy Maverick was asleep on my shoulder, and so while he was asleep, I thought, oh, I've got a little time. I might as well read that movie script thing, thinking that I probably wouldn't do it, but I read the story and I really liked it. I really liked this character, and I wanted to embrace the opportunity to try to portray him. And so I called him and I said, "Sure, I'll do it,"
Yeah.
not knowing what that might mean to for my memorization and for just the intense schedule that it would call for.
Most people, like you said, you weren't maybe anticipating a career in acting. Most people who are familiar with Granger Smith know you for your music. You're a country singer, and now you're stepping into an acting role. Did you anticipate ever or have any desire in your mind to ever go into acting?
No, I didn't. But lately, over the last few years, I've truly embraced the idea that the future is none of my business.
Mm.
I open up my hands, and we have a sovereign God. We have a providential God that once we open up to Him and we say, "This is for your kingdom, not mine," and we turn our palms open, He says, I will make new things. I will bring things to you. I will give you desires of your heart. And that has that has led me to the idea that I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I'm totally open to whatever God has a plan for.
Yeah. And your character in Moonrise is a widower, so it's someone who's familiar with loss, but you in your personal life, of course, are familiar with loss. How has loss being so real in your personal life impacted how you portrayed your character in Moonrise?
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably took the role starting with because of that, because of my familiarity with loss, and I don't know if I would have taken it if I would have thought to myself, I don't. It's kind of disrespectful to take a role of a man that's lost and hurting and grieving if I don't know anything about it. And that doesn't make me special at all. In fact, it makes me part of a fraternity no one wants to be in. But
Yeah.
but eventually everyone will go through it. That's just if you live in a family with friends and you love them and you live on this planet long enough, you will experience deep tragic loss. And so we could either embrace that now or be blind to it when it does come.
Mm. I can't even begin, and so many people would be in the same boat. I can't even begin to wrap my mind around. I don't have any children of my own, but I can't imagine the process of losing a child. Yet that's something that you went through and you've gone through so publicly, which is another layer, I would imagine, to the grief, right? You're not only having to process it internally as a family, but you're also processing it in the public eye. And I remember I was looking at some interviews you had done. You said in 2020 that you were in the process of forgiving yourself, but you
Mm.
weren't there yet. I want to ask, where do you see yourself now, and how has God helped maybe shape some of that process for you?
Yeah, I ended up writing a book about that, and it's going to come out in 2023. But I would like to hear that interview of that guy that you're talking about,
Mm.
that said those words, because I've had a lot of thinking since then, and I've definitely processed it daily. Now, on a side note, my wife and I have processed that grief publicly on purpose. That's a choice, because we could have just closed our doors and told every media outlet we're not talking about that. Only talk about music, nothing else. We could have done that, but we chose from the very beginning as we saw that if we are vulnerable with our story, then we have the opportunity to help others.
Mm.
And through the helping of others, not because we're just these, we're taking this moral high ground and we're these kind of people that, feed off that. It's what happens is when we do help others through our grief, we realize that is part of our healing, a big part of our healing, because we could realize through that tragedy and loss and hurt and sadness and pain for a Christian is not meaningless.
Yeah.
It has a purpose. As Paul said, it is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. So we realize that we grieve with hope, that grieving hurts, that it is painful, but it is not meaningless.
Mm. There's a post that you shared not that long ago on social media where you're talking about everything happens for a reason, right? God allows all kinds of things, the good and the bad, to happen for a reason, but we don't see the full picture all the time. We are only able to see what's right in front of us. And that's actually a theme that's throughout Moonrise too, right? Is this father and kids that are learning to process something and they're only seeing a really small piece of the picture, as tough as that is. Why do you think it's so important that we only see what's in front of us? Why does God shield us from seeing everything?
Well, if we could see everything, then we would. It's imagine like this. I think what you're probably referring to is when I talk about the mosaic.
Yeah.
And it's like this idea that there's this beautiful European mosaic artwork, those little tiles all stacked up around each other. And if you're looking at it up close, it just looks like a blob. It looks like nothing. But when you start stepping back slowly, you could see it's a beautiful masterpiece. But if the very beginning, if you could see that it was a beautiful masterpiece, you'd say, oh, this is my life. This is what it turns out to be. Great. Then I'm going to start planning on this part of my life because that's great. And I really want it. And God's like, no, I don't want you on that part. I need you to go through this part. God does this. God builds these beautiful stories, these beautiful narratives, this beautiful mosaic over and over as we see his character revealed in the Bible. For instance, when the Bible prophesies that there's going to be a baby born, the Savior of the world in Bethlehem, why didn't God just choose a girl from Bethlehem? But no, he chooses one from Nazareth. And then has to coordinate this massive census and then take this girl on a donkey, and then there's not a room left. And so she has to go into the barn, into the hay. Like, that is so difficult. Why does God do that? Because he writes these beautiful narratives. And we should look at the Bible and see this and go, man, my life can't be cookie cutter, because that's just not the way God operates. He doesn't pick a girl from Bethlehem that's already in her house and has a baby right there in the home. That's not how he works. He builds these stories. Why couldn't David just be the first king? Why didn't God anoint David as the first king? No, he needed to anoint Saul so that Saul could then torment David, so that David could be humbled and David could learn how to appropriate mercy and grace to his people through Saul. But we don't always see it like that when we're in a hard time. We don't realize that when my favorite movie always has the bad guy. And if you take the bad guy out of the movie, it wouldn't be my favorite movie anymore. It'd be really boring. And that's what God does in our lives. And when we finally step back, we see the beautiful picture that he has painted.
Yeah. I think that's something that's beautiful about film too, right? Is it communicates these truths in a way that maybe we wouldn't be receptive to them in a sermon. Sometimes if you're not somebody who goes to church, you may not be really interested in that. But this movie like Moonrise might spark an interest, right? It might open up a dialogue. So tell us a little bit about why you think it's important for films to start this conversation sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point. For someone that goes, I've heard about this faith thing. I know people talk about Jesus, and I know he was the Son of God, and he was born in a manger. I get it. And why did he come? Oh, yeah, something about a cross, and he died. And that's probably most Americans could say that. Now, that's crazy because, 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, that was brand new information. But now we've come to this strange part of history where people are like, Yeah, heard it. I know it. Got it. But then you could see a movie like Moonrise, maybe that would be the hope that you can go, oh, it's more than just a happy life. Like Christianity, giving my life to Christ is more than just he's going to bless me with wealth or he's going to heal all my pain. You mean a guy could live for this? A guy could be brought out of the deepest, darkest depression when he surrenders to this without his own effort at all? You mean that's what this is about? Okay, let me hear more. What's the
Mm.
next step? And then that's where globally Christians at that point go, come on, I'll tell you the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's sit down. Let's have some coffee. I'll tell you about it.
I want to ask you too, as we kind of round out the conversation, the movie also has some original music in it, which is exciting. So to tell us a little bit about some of the work that you did, not only acting, but also bringing music and kind of sharing your heart in that way as well.
Yeah, that wasn't the intention when I first got the script and agreed to the role. But there was a movie, or excuse me, there was a song in the movie in the script, and it had a title called Forever Forward. And I texted the director and I said, "Can you send me that song so that I could start learning it? Because my character has to write and perform the song in the film." And she said, "No, that song doesn't exist. That's just a placeholder, hoping that maybe we'd find a song to put in there."
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, I like the title you have, Forever Forward. Let me just try to write that." So I wrote that on Christmas Eve of 2021. And that was the first song that went into the film. And then there was a second song that my character plays live in a dance hall. And I asked if I could have that one. And she said, "I don't have any songs. If you want to write them, you can." So then that started a new journey of writing songs for each moment in the film.
Yeah. Well, the last question I want to ask you is just for the Christian or non-believer, whoever who's struggling with loss. I think Christmas is either a great season for people, or it can also
Mhm.
be a tough season because it magnifies those losses for people. So if somebody's struggling right now as we're entering into the holiday season, what word of wisdom or encouragement would you give them?
Yeah, first of all, you're not alone. And that's a normal feeling. You could feel a couple different ways. And one of them could be, I'm a Grinch. I need to stop this. Like I don't really feel like decorating the house right now. I don't really feel like putting up Christmas lights outside, and I don't really feel like inviting people over and eating turkey and ham. I kind of just want to crawl in the closet and just cry and stay in the dark. And you know what? That's a normal feeling. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, no one would blame you for that. There are so many millions of people this Christmas right now thinking this. And I've talked to a lot of them. And I'm sure you have too, Trey. People are going through this. They lost their mother in May. They lost their father in September. They lost their grandpa in February. And here we are, the first Christmas without them. So the message is, first of all, we hear you. You're not alone. There is joy on the other side of this. You will not feel this way every Christmas from now on. You will one day smile and open up a gift from your spouse and say, "Grandpa would have loved this because Grandpa loved Christmas so much." And you'll smile instead of cry.
Mm.
The other side of that coin is this Christmas, someone experiencing loss might accidentally smile and instantly feel guilt for that.
Yeah.
How could you smile? How do you dare smile when your grandpa's gone and he loved this and he taught you everything you know about Christmas? How could you smile without him here? And that is a lie from the enemy. And that guilt is a thief that's coming in to steal your joy, when the reality is joy and grief can coexist at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with crying or laughing or smiling this holiday season with whatever you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that's a great place to leave the conversation. There's so much wisdom in your words. So I appreciate Granger Smith, you taking a few minutes. The new movie is Moonrise on PureFlix. You can check it out now. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Trey. Appreciate you, brother.